Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi LIVENODING. In this episode, I will be showing you how I created this kind of art. Actually got inspired by PlayStation logo the other day. These buttons, familiar logo and symbols. So this is kind of like an illusions. The other day, I also saw like an animations of a fish swimming in the dark, and the fish actually have some kind of patterns. And this is basically what it is. So this is like an illusion. It's kind of like just basically scattered symbols on Suzanne. It's almost like, actually this is like a hidden line art. Hidden line art in the past is like if you have 3D objects and you have wireframe, but you hide whatever the ones that's behind. So it's kind of occluded and you have this just symbols kind of rotating around. I think the effect is kind of nice. So I want to recreate that using geometry nodes. So this is what it is. This is how it looks like. Go through the camera. While animating, you might see that this becomes kind of like a motion. We have some kind of motion blur. I will try to render this a bit later. So this is just like a plane with Suzanne, and on top of the plane we have instance of this geometry. This is the PlayStation button symbols being generated on the fly using SVerchok. So the SVerchok nodes is looking like, oh I forgot, the SVerchok nodes actually already been baked from curve into mesh, because geometry nodes actually prefer like a mesh objects instead of curve. But I created this using SVerchok and then I instanced it using geometry nodes. So let's take a look at the geometry nodes first. Okay, the geometry nodes is basically just I started with the original geometry, which is like Suzanne and the plane, and then I rotate it using this value, which is just the frame numbers that I multiplied with 0.1, and I plug this into the z-axis, so it's rotating on the z-axis. And then I have two materials. The one is very black and the other one is very white color. So we have, if we have like super dark background and we have this kind of things happening, it's kind of like an illusions. We can see 3D because of course this is like all these symbols on top of 3D objects, and at any time we can actually just replace the instance. So instead of collections we can use object, and the object can be the beta or the epsilon or the eta or the zeta. So we have this kind of really interesting pattern, almost like an old school computer trying to draw something that's 3D and complex. Of course this is actually just, this is really 3D because it's kind of like a minimalist artwork. Yeah, we try to simulate that kind of old school pattern. And of course the shader itself is just black and white, very black and very white with emission. And what else I forgot to mention? Okay, this is the point size. I can make the point really small, and it's just point distributions. I can have more or less, kind of like particle size. It's kind of like a very abstract 3D model. You can replace this with anything. So the beta, epsilon, and eta and zeta, before I bake it, is actually generated using SVerchok. So this is what it is initially, just bunch of curve, and I'm using SVerchok for this. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this 4, geometry being generated on the fly. Of course, the simplest one, circle. We have circle, of course. And my output is this polyline viewer. And then we have n-gon, triangle, which I rotated 90 degrees. And we have another n-gon. This is for the rectangle, four-sided rectangle. The most complex one is probably line. Line is just basically a line to make the cross, but I rotate it 4 times using this value, and then I rotate it 45 degrees. Without the 45 degrees, it's just like a plus. So I make it into cross. So this is the cool thing about SVerchok. You can generate transforms on the fly. So I'm generating 4 transforms, each one with a step of 90s. This is like the basic of the SVerchok. So anytime if you want to add more objects, you can do that. For example, if I want to add a spiral, so I just generated a spiral. So I add another symbol for the PlayStation. Spiral of chaos, basically. Yeah, right. So all this curve, actually, if you bring it into geometry nodes will actually respect it as actual curve. So this is just curve being instance, and in order for this to render, you need to convert it into mesh. That's why I bake it on the other one. So this geometry nodes, instancing and assigning the materials, but you actually before join geometry, this is like the original geometry coming in, but before you do that, you actually want to turn the instance into real objects. Mesh to curve. I think I use this. So circle coming in, and I think it should generate result. Yeah, a little bit, something like that. We got a spiral, circle, the crossed, and being instance. So you can randomize the seed, and you can rotate Suzanne and everything here. So this is like black on white. You can of course make the background white color, so we have that kind of effects, the pattern. So let me save this. So that's basically the whole process to create something like this. It's pretty cool effects. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.